Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to When Voices Break and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that touches the heart. Now, let's begin. My name is Helen Carter, and I never thought I'd spend my old age learning what family truly means. For most of my life, I believed family was about blood, about who you raised, fed, and sacrificed for. But I was wrong. It took losing everything, my home, my dignity, even my pride, to understand that love doesn't always come from the people you gave life to. Sometimes, it comes from the one you once ignored. I was born and raised in Cedar Falls, Iowa, a quiet little town where everyone knows everyone. Life here was simple. Neighbors helped each other, church bells rang every Sunday morning, and every summer, the town held a fair by the river. When I married Robert Carter, I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. Robert was kind, patient, and had a heart as big as the sky. He wasn't rich. He worked at a car repair shop downtown. But he gave me everything I ever needed: safety, love, and 3 beautiful boys, Mark, Jason, and Ethan. We built our little world in a modest 2-story house with white siding and a porch Robert painted himself. That porch held more memories than I could count. Birthdays, scraped knees, late-night talks, and the smell of Robert's coffee every morning. But life has a way of changing when you least expect it. Robert started getting sick when he was in his 50s. At first, we thought it was just fatigue. He worked long hours, after all, but then came the diagnosis: heart failure. Those words still echo in my mind. The nights after that were filled with quiet fear. I remember lying next to him, hearing his breathing turn shallow, praying that tomorrow would be better. It rarely was. He passed away on a rainy Thursday morning. I remember holding his hand, whispering, "Don't worry, love. I'll take care of our boys." He smiled, a weak, tired smile, and said, "Promise me, you'll still find joy." Then he was gone. And with him, the light in our home faded. After the funeral, I thought my sons would stay close. We had always been a tight-knit family. Mark, the eldest, was ambitious, always chasing promotions, always in control. Jason was gentle, a teacher with a calm soul. And Ethan, my youngest, was my baby, carefree and full of laughter. For a while, they did visit. Mark would drop by after work, Jason would call from his classroom during lunch, and Ethan would stop by with fast food just to make me smile. But over time, things began to change. They got busy, then too busy. Calls came less often, visits turned into text messages, and eventually, silence filled the rooms Robert once filled with laughter. One evening, I called Mark just to hear his voice. "Hi, honey," I said softly when he picked up. "Oh, hey, Mom," he replied, distracted. "Can I call you back? I'm just in a meeting." "Sure, sweetheart," I said. "Don't forget your mother misses you." He chuckled faintly. Yeah, I know. Love you." The line went dead. He never called back. Weeks turned into months. The only people who knocked on my door were delivery drivers and the mailman. I tried to stay positive, cooked meals for one, went to church, smiled at neighbors. But the loneliness crept in like a slow shadow. Then came that Sunday dinner, the one that changed everything. Mark called that morning. "Mom, we're all coming over tonight," he said. My heart leapt. All 3 of my boys under one roof again. It felt like the old days. I spent the whole afternoon cooking: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and Robert's favorite apple pie. I even lit candles on the table. When they arrived, I opened the door with a smile that could have lit the world. But the moment I saw their faces, my smile faded. They weren't here for dinner. They were here for a discussion. We sat down, the air thick with unspoken words. Mark cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been talking. We're worried about you, living here alone." Jason nodded. "It's not safe, Mom. You've had 2 falls this year." Ethan looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, boys. I'm fine. Just a little clumsy, that's all." We sat down, the air thick with unspoken words. Mark cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been talking. We're worried about you, living here alone." Jason nodded. "It's not safe, Mom. You've had 2 falls this year." Ethan looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, boys. I'm fine. Just a little clumsy, that's all." But Mark's tone was serious. "Mom, this house is too big for you. We think it's time you move into a senior care facility." The words hit me like ice water. "Excuse me?" I whispered. Lindsay, Mark's wife, spoke up. "We've already checked one nearby. Riverbend Senior Living. It's beautiful, Mom. You'll love it." I felt my throat tighten. "You've already checked?" Jason sighed. "Mom, please don't make this harder." I looked at all 3 of them, my babies, now grown men, and realized something painful. They weren't asking me, they were telling me. After dinner, they stayed silent while I washed the dishes alone. My hands trembled over the sink. How could they? How could the same children I had stayed up nights for, prayed for, and raised with everything I had, decide my future without me? Mark came into the kitchen. "Mom," he said gently, "it's not that we don't care. It's just, we can't always be around. We all have families now." I turned to him, tears in my eyes. "And I'm not family anymore?" He looked down. "That's not what I meant." But it was exactly what he meant. That night, after they left, I sat on the porch Robert built and watched the streetlights flicker. The same porch where we used to swing and talk about our dreams. Now it was just me, and the sound of the wind through the trees. I whispered to the night, "Robert, I kept my promise. I took care of them, but they've all forgotten me." And somewhere deep inside, I felt something break. Something that had held me together since the day he died. The next morning, I got a call. It was Mark. "Mom, we've talked more about it. We're going to help you sell the house. It'll make things easier." My voice trembled. "Easier for who?" He didn't answer, just said, "We'll come by this weekend with the paperwork." And that was that. The decision was made. For the rest of that week, I couldn't sleep. Every corner of the house was filled with memories. Ethan's height marks on the wall, Jason's childhood drawings, Robert's tools in the garage. How could I let strangers buy it? How could I let go of the last piece of my life? But my sons didn't ask again. They came with papers, boxes, and polite smiles. And just like that, my home, our home, was gone. I moved into Riverbend Senior Living the next Monday. As the car pulled away, I looked out the window at the house fading in the distance, and I thought about every moment I'd given to those boys. Every meal, every hug, every tear, and now I had nothing. Just a suitcase, a few photos, and a heart full of memories. Only I'd known then that the person who would one day save me was someone I'd once failed to love. When the car stopped in front of Riverbend Senior Living, I stared at the building in silence. It was clean, modern, but it didn't feel alive. Big glass windows reflected the gray sky, and the sign outside read, "Welcome home." Home. How could this be home? Mark helped me out of the car, avoiding my eyes. Jason handled the luggage, and Ethan scrolled through his phone. No one spoke. The nurse at reception smiled brightly and said, "Mrs. Carter, we've been expecting you." Expecting me, as if I were some delivery, not a mother they were leaving behind. They showed me my room, a small, pale space with a twin bed, a dresser, and a window overlooking the parking lot. Mark patted my shoulder. "You'll be comfortable here, Mom. They've got everything. Meals, activities, even bingo." I forced a smile. Bingo! How exciting! He didn't notice the sarcasm. Lindsay was already looking at her watch. "We should go. The kids have school tomorrow." I followed them to the hallway. "Wait," I said softly. "Will you visit?" Jason hugged me quickly. "Of course, Mom." Ethan mumbled, "Yeah, sure." And then they left, just like that. The elevator doors closed, and I stood there, holding my breath until I couldn't anymore. When I finally exhaled, it felt like part of my soul went with them. The days that followed. Riverbend wasn't cruel, but it was lonely. People there moved slowly, spoke softly, and stared at walls like they were waiting for something, someone, who would never come. The staff tried their best. They smiled, said, "Good morning, Mrs. Carter," and reminded me to take my medication. But kindness from strangers doesn't fill the hole your family leaves behind. Days blurred into each other. Breakfast, TV, lunch, silence, dinner, lights out. I learned the rhythm of emptiness. My birthday came in March. The nurses sang for me, brought a cupcake with one candle. I smiled, but inside I was crumbling. No call, no message, not even a card. That night, I looked at the ceiling and whispered, "Robert, what did I do wrong? Why did our sons forget where they came from?" Tears slipped down into my hair. I felt so small in that big, quiet room. The visit I never expected. It was early April when the nurse knocked on my door. "Mrs. Carter, you have a visitor." My heart jumped. "Mark?" I asked hopefully. She smiled. "No, a young man named Nathan." Nathan. The name stirred a faint memory. A ghost from long ago. Robert's first boy. The child from his first marriage. The one I had never truly accepted. When he walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. Tall, confident, but his eyes were Robert's, warm, gentle, full of patience. He carried a small bouquet of daisies. "I didn't know what flowers you liked," he said softly. "So I brought the kind Dad used to pick for you in the backyard." My breath caught. "How do you remember that?" He smiled. "He told me once." And just like that, decades of silence melted into something unspoken. Forgiveness I didn't deserve. We sat together for hours that first day. He asked about Robert, about my health, about the boys. I tried to answer honestly, though shame burned inside me. When Nathan was a child, I kept my distance. He'd come over every few weekends. Robert would be so happy, cooking extra pancakes, playing catch in the yard. But I always found reasons to stay in the kitchen, pretending to clean. I told myself I was protecting my own son's feelings. But truthfully, I was protecting my own, from jealousy, from guilt, from loving a boy who reminded me that Robert had a life before me. One Sunday, Nathan had given me a hand-drawn picture, a stick-figure family, 4 people holding hands. He said, "I drew us all together." And I told him to put it away before my boys saw. He'd looked down, folded the paper carefully, and whispered, "Okay, Mrs. Carter." That memory haunted me now, sitting across from a grown man who still called me Mrs. Carter. The second visit. He came back the next week, and the next, and then every Saturday after that. He brought stories about his business in Des Moines, about traveling, about how he'd always admired his father. Sometimes he brought coffee, sometimes books, sometimes just time. One afternoon, he said quietly, "I looked for Dad for years after my mom moved us away. When I finally found him, he was already sick. You took care of him till the end. Thank you for that." A month later, I received a letter at Riverbend. It was from Mark. At first, my heart raced. Finally, my sons remembered. But the letter wasn't a check-in. It was about money. "Mom, since you're comfortable there, we thought it might be best to finalize the sale of the house completely. The remaining balance will help cover your expenses. Love, Mark." Love, Mark. Those 2 words felt hollow. I folded the letter and placed it on the nightstand. When Nathan came that weekend, he noticed my silence. "What's wrong?" he asked. I handed him the letter. He read it, then sighed deeply. "Do you want me to say something to them?" I shook my head. "No, Nathan. It's all right. I've learned you can't force love out of people who've stopped offering it." He nodded, respect shining in his eyes. And in that moment, I realized he was teaching me what true family meant. Quiet presence, not obligation. It was a stormy night in late May when I slipped on the tiled floor of my room. I fell hard. A sharp pain shot through my hip, and I couldn't move. The nurse found me minutes later and called the hospital. I spent 3 days there, drifting between sleep and aching loneliness. When I woke up, Nathan was sitting beside my bed. He'd driven 2 hours from Des Moines in the middle of the night. "Why are you here?" I whispered. He smiled. "Because you needed someone." I turned my face away as tears filled my eyes. "No one else came," I muttered. "I know," he said softly, "but I'm here." He stayed the whole night, reading me stories from an old magazine, making me laugh. When I closed my eyes, I heard him whisper, "Dad, I got her." I won't let her be alone again. And for the first time in years, I felt safe. After I was discharged, Nathan helped me back to Riverbend. He sat on the edge of the bed and said, "Mrs. Carter, I don't think you belong here." I looked at him, confused. "Where else would I go?" "My place," he said simply. "I have a big house in Des Moines, too big for just me. You deserve a home, not a room." I shook my head immediately. "Oh no, Nathan. You've done enough. I can't be a burden." He leaned forward, his eyes kind. "You won't be a burden. You'll be family. Besides," he added with a smile, "I could use someone to criticize my cooking." That made me laugh. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard from myself in years. He squeezed my hand. "Think about it, okay?" After he left, I stared out the window. Rain tapped softly on the glass, and I whispered, "Maybe this time, Robert, you sent me someone to come home to. If you're still listening, don't leave yet." Because the next part of my story, the part where I found love in the most unexpected place, changed everything. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was warm on my face. I hadn't felt sunlight in a long time. Not like this, not through clean curtains and polished windows. The room smelled of coffee and cinnamon rolls. I could hear someone moving in the kitchen. For a few seconds, I didn't remember where I was. Then it came back, the night before. Nathan, my husband's stepson, the boy I never truly loved. He had brought me into his home like I was his own mother. I sat up slowly. The blanket on me was new, soft, freshly washed. Beside the bed, there was a small photo frame, a picture of Robert holding a little boy, Nathan. They were smiling under the same oak tree that once stood in our old yard. A tear rolled down my cheek. I remembered the day Robert had brought him home. A quiet 10-year-old boy with big brown eyes and a small backpack. I had been angry. I thought Nathan was a stranger, a burden, a reminder that my husband had loved another woman before me. And I made sure he knew he wasn't my real son. Now, here he was, making me breakfast. Nathan came in carrying a tray. Eggs, toast, orange juice, and a small flower in a cup. "Good morning, Mom," he said softly. That word, Mom, hit me like a wave. I hadn't heard it in so long. Not with that warmth, not with that kindness. I smiled, though my voice trembled. "You don't have to call me that, Nathan." He shrugged, sitting at the edge of the bed. "You were married to my father. Your family. That's what matters." I wanted to say something. Anything. But my throat tightened. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a burden, not as someone forgotten, but as a mother again. After breakfast, Nathan took me on a slow drive around Cedar Falls. The trees were turning red and gold. Autumn had begun to paint the town in warmth. He pointed out his company's new building downtown, Carter Innovations. I was surprised. I had heard rumors about a young millionaire from our area who built a technology business from nothing. I had no idea it was Nathan. "You built all this?" I asked, amazed. He smiled shyly. Yeah, it started with a small repair shop. Now we employ about 50 people. He glanced at me. Dad would have been proud, I think. My eyes filled again. He would be. He always believed in you. Nathan nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. He used to say, "You don't need to be born into love. You can choose to create it." I guess I tried to live by that. His words stayed with me all day. A week passed. Nathan made sure I saw the doctor, got my medication, and even arranged a small room for me upstairs with a view of the river. Sometimes when I sat by the window, I thought about my real sons, Mark, Jason, and Ethan. They hadn't called once, not a single message to ask if I was alive. I had given them everything: college tuition, birthday parties, their first cars. When their father died, I sold part of our land just to make sure they had a good start, and in return, they had thrown me out of my own home. The pain of that betrayal still lived inside me, but sitting in Nathan's house, surrounded by quiet kindness, something inside me began to heal. One night, I asked him gently, "Nathan, why did you take me in? After all, I was never kind to you." He looked at me with calm eyes. "Because you're my father's wife. And because he loved you. That's enough for me. I don't hold grudges, Mom. Life's too short." I lowered my head. "I don't deserve your kindness." He smiled sadly. "Maybe not. But you need it. And I have plenty to give." One evening, while Nathan was out meeting clients, my phone rang. It was a number I hadn't seen in months. Mark. My heart jumped. I hesitated, then answered. "Mark?" There was silence for a moment, then a voice, sharp, annoyed. "Mom, where are you?" "I'm fine," I said softly. "Why are you calling?" He sighed. We heard from the bank. You transferred the house title out of your name. It's in foreclosure. What did you do?" I froze. They weren't calling because they missed me. They were calling about money. "Mark," I whispered, "I'm not living there anymore." "I'm with someone who cares about me," he scoffed. "Who? That useless stepbrother? You think he's family?" The words cut deep. I felt my hand shake as I said, "He's more of a son than you've ever been." Mark went silent, then he hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall. The tears came quietly, not from anger this time, but from release. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. Nathan came home later and found me wiping my eyes. He didn't ask why, he just sat beside me and held my hand. And in that moment, I realized, sometimes the family you lose makes room for the family you deserve. As days turned into weeks, my health improved. I started helping Nathan with small chores, folding laundry, cooking simple meals. He would laugh and say, "Mom, you don't have to do anything. Just rest." But I liked helping. It made me feel alive again. He even bought me a small cat, a gray kitten named Misty. She followed me everywhere, curling up on my lap whenever I sat by the window. Nathan would smile every time he saw us together. "Looks like I'm not the favorite anymore," he'd joke. I laughed. It was a cold February morning in Cedar Falls, Iowa. The wind whistled through the bare trees outside Nathan's house. I was sitting in my favorite chair by the window, a quilt around my shoulders, when I heard a sudden knock at the door. I shuffled slowly to open it. When I did, my heart stopped. Standing on the porch were my 3 sons, Mark, Jason, and Ethan. For a moment, none of us spoke. They looked thinner, older, and worried. Their fancy jackets couldn't hide the shame in their eyes. "Mom," Jason whispered first. We need to talk." I stood frozen. My throat tightened. After all this time, they finally came, not to visit, not out of love, but because something must have gone wrong. I stepped aside silently. "Come in." They sat awkwardly in the living room. Nathan soon came downstairs, wiping his hands on a towel, surprised to see them. Mark cleared his throat. "We didn't mean to bother you, Nathan." We just wanted to speak to our mother. Nathan nodded politely. Of course. I'll give you space, but I placed a hand on his arm. No, stay. Jason looked up quickly. We thought maybe you could help us. The house, maybe some money Dad left. I smiled sadly. The house is gone, boys. Sold long ago. And what little I had left, I no longer need. Mark frowned. Mom, please, we're your sons. Don't you care? I looked at each of them, their tired faces, the panic, the guilt, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not revenge, just understanding. I cared more than you'll ever know, I said quietly. But love without respect becomes pain. I gave you everything, my youth, my time, my dreams, and when I needed you, you left me on the street. Jason's eyes filled with tears. Mom, we were wrong. We thought you'd be fine. We were selfish. Ethan covered his face. I can't sleep at night thinking about it. Nathan stepped forward then, calm and strong. Your mother doesn't need money or apologies. She needed love, something you had but you never used. The room was silent except for the ticking clock on the wall. I gestured to the dining table. Sit down. They hesitated, then obeyed. The same table where Nathan and I shared breakfast now held the heaviest conversation of my life. I forgive you, I said softly. Not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry the pain anymore. Mark broke down crying. Mom, we'll make it right. We'll take care of you. Please, come home. I shook my head. I am home. Nathan looked at me, eyes wide, and I smiled through tears. This is my home now. And Nathan, he is my son. The son who stayed when everyone else walked away. Jason lowered his head. We don't blame you. We just want another chance to be family. I reached across the table, placing my frail hand over theirs. You'll always be my children. But family isn't about who's born from you. It's about who stands beside you when life gets dark. For a moment, none of us could speak. Then Nathan said quietly, Mom, why don't we all eat together? It's been years since you've had your boys at one table. So we did. We shared soup and bread, simple food but filled with warmth. I watched my sons, the real ones and the one I'd once rejected, sitting side by side. And I realized something beautiful. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it replaces it with peace. Spring came again to Cedar Falls. The fields turned green, and the river shimmered beneath the sun. My health was failing, but my heart had never been lighter. Nathan insisted I rest, but I spent my days writing letters, one to each of my sons, and one to him. In Mark's letter, I wrote, You were my first heartbeat as a mother. Don't forget the power of gentleness in Jason's. You have your father's eyes. Use them to see people, not things. In Ethan's, you can still rebuild, not just your business, but your soul. And to Nathan, you were never my blood, yet you became my home. Thank you for teaching me what real love looks like. One evening, I sat by the window watching the sunset. The sky glowed orange, gold, and soft pink. I felt tired, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes after forgiveness. Nathan walked in quietly. Need anything, Mom? I smiled. No, sweetheart. Just stay. He sat beside me, and we watched the light fade together. I used to think my life was a failure, I whispered. But now I see, it was just unfinished. You completed it for me. He squeezed my hand. You gave me a home when I had none. The rest doesn't matter. As the sun slipped below the horizon, I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. The last thing I heard was Nathan's voice, soft and full of love. I love you, Mom. A year later, Cedar Falls bloomed with spring again. At the town's small cemetery, Nathan stood by my resting place, a white stone beneath the maple tree. My sons were there too. Mark had reopened a small shop. Jason had started volunteering. Ethan was sober for the first time in years. They visited every week now, bringing flowers, telling stories about their children, and thanking Nathan for caring for me when they couldn't. Nathan looked up at the sky that morning and smiled. "I kept my promise, Mom," he said softly. "The family you dreamed of, it's finally here." The wind rustled through the branches, gentle as a mother's hand. And somewhere, I like to believe, Helen Carter smiled too. Sometimes the family you raise walks away, and the one you least expect becomes your forever home. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to When Voices Break for more emotional real-life stories. Thank you for listening. And remember, love isn't about blood, it's about who stays.